Hello electric football coaches. Well, it's been a while since I've done a tutorial, so I thought I'd get back into doing them. First order of business, I'd like to thank all the new subscribers that have come on board onto my channel since the last time I've done one of these tutorials. Today's hopefully informative subject is going to be how to make your own decals for your teams. Now, my particular situation is I wanted to do some painting and decaling of some CFL teams for my solitaire league. And eventually I wanted to do a whole bunch of NFL teams as well. So I decided to self-learn how to produce my own decals. So I'm going to share in that process, and hopefully you'll learn something new here, and we'll have some fun doing so. Now, it should be stated there's some very talented and proficient decal makers within this hobby. And if you desire the best of the best for your team or teams, and who wouldn't want that, then you probably should consider using their services. What they charge for a decal sheet is pretty reasonable, and they have both the expertise and the equipment to supply top quality product. In mentioning equipment, the pros are going to have superior equipment, mainly the printer that they're using, whereas here we're going to be using an Inkjet printer. And while we're not going to quite approach the same quality level as where you might get elsewhere, I think do it on your own. You might be surprised how good your decals will actually turn out. Now, maybe you don't want to do a full set of decals for your team. Maybe you already have it. Maybe it's already painted up team and everything and decaled. And the only thing missing is the names on the back of the jersey. Well, I could show you how to do that customizing tip as far as printing out names for the back of your jersey. I'm going to be covering the three main components to making your own decals. First component is the printer itself. And of course we need some decal paper. And finally we need some software in order to tie all this together and achieve our final results. The first printer we're going to focus on is probably the one the pros are probably using to do the decal sheets that you're buying. This is called an Alps Printer, and it's made in Japan. The prime desirable quality to an Alps printer for doing decal sheets is it has the capability of printing in white ink. Less important, but still a nice feature to have, is the ability to print in metallic gold and silvers. Now, of course, both these capabilities are something that no inkjet desktop printer can achieve. Unfortunately, the Alps printer ceased production many years ago. It's no longer being made. And as you can see here, they're not exactly cheap to acquire one these days, and they're even all used, of course. You can't find a brand new one. Even the ink cartridges to an Alps printer aren't conventional. They're more like an old typewriter type of ribbon rather than a conventional liquefied ink. Probably even more unfortunate, to the best of my knowledge, there's not an equivalent capable printer currently on the market that the Joe average guy could purchase at a reasonable cost. There are, of course, industrial grade printers that are capable of doing anything an Alps printer couldn't do, and even more, but I don't think either you or I have access to printers that cost tens of thousands of dollars. So we're going to move on to a printer type that many of us have in our possession, or at least have access to, and that's the common Inkjet printer. Now, my personal choice for an Inkjet printer is the Canon brand. I've had very good luck with them over the years. However, that's just a personal preference, of course. All the other brands like Lexmark, Epson Brothers, for instance, all make good printers. Generally, if your printer is capable of printing off good quality photographs, and that should include most printers on the market these days, you will have a printer capable of printing your own decals. Now, one common factor that all these inkjet printers have is that their brand name replacement inkjet cartridges are rather expensive. Heck, if you replaced all your inkjet cartridges in your printer, do that one or two times and you've already exceeded the original cost of the printer itself. Now, many of you are probably already aware of this following fact, but for those who aren't, there are alternative inkjet replacement cartridges available, and this website, for instance, is just one example of it. As an example for my own printer here, we're going to go to the original Canon replacement cartridge here. And here's the standard black inkjet Canon one for $19.99, which isn't too bad because I've seen it considered to be more expensive in the walk-in type of store. Now we'll go up and check the generic pricing on the replacement inkjet cartridge. And you can see $4.50, so considerable savings. This is a Canadian site, of course, but there's all sorts of sites similar to this. I think it also needs to be mentioned here that a lot of these cartridges these days come with a computer chip installed on them. It wasn't that long ago that these replacement cartridges didn't come with a computer chip, and what you had to do is swap over the chip from the original Canon cartridge, put it in the generic one, and that was kind of a hit and miss thing. Sometimes the printer wouldn't recognize the cartridge and reject it, but these days you can get pretty much all the cartridges with the chip installed, so if you have the option, make sure you get the replacement cartridge with the chip installed. The next component to our ongoing project here is the decal paper itself. We will require two types of decal paper, both clear and also white paper. Now the reason for the addition of the white paper is because of course we don't have the capability with our home inkjet printers to print in white ink. Utilizing the white decal paper will allow us to get around this limitation, but I will dwell further into how and why we use the white paper later in the video. The immediate question that comes to mind is what brand to buy and where to purchase your decal paper. I have not experimented with all the brands of decal paper on the market. However, I have communicated with other decal makers involved in plastic model and aircraft building to get some other feedback, and did a bit of my own research as well. This is where I've purchased and acquired my white decal paper, and I've been very satisfied with the quality. I haven't had a chance to use their clear paper, but I'm sure it's of equal quality. Actually, if there's any discrepancy between the quality of the various brands of decal paper, it's going to lie with the white paper decal material. It has all to do with the thickness of the white backing material. Naturally, the thinner the backing, the better for our application. With the clear decal paper, naturally there's no white backing to it, so it comes in pretty much standard thickness no matter what the brand. The smallest size the sheets come in is a letter sizing of 8.5 by 11, and they are available in various quantities. And like most quantity bulk purchases, the more you buy, the less you pay per sheet. But as you can see, you're probably going to pay about 90 cents per decal paper sheet, and it's not inexpensive. But it's pretty much the standard pricing out there for decal sheets. Maybe a possible option is if you got a bunch of buddies or considered trying to get into this decal making, maybe you could split the costs. Another factor to be made aware of is there is a decal paper made for specifically colored laser printers. So make certain if you're going to buy decal paper, whether it's from this site or any other site for that matter, you are indeed acquiring inkjet water slide decal paper and not color laser decal paper. The two are not compatible and they're totally different. Another alternative for decal papers is Testier decal paper. It's available at most walk-in hobby stores and even craft stores like Michael's. It comes in a 5.5 inch by 8.5 inch size sheet, so basically it's a half size of a full letter size sheet. It comes with 3 white and 3 clear sheets. I've also seen it packaged as 6 white or 6 clear sheets as well. I have had the opportunity to use this paper. It's a decent quality paper comparable to some of the other ones. If you only plan on doing or needing a small amount of decal paper for a couple of teams, for instance, maybe this might suit your immediate needs, being that it's readily available. They also offer a complete decal making kit. Besides the sheets itself, it comes with a decal bonder. That's a subject I'll cover later in this video, and some decal making software. Their decal software program is rather limited in its basic form. You can also get a more deluxe version of the program, but of course at additional cost. So the next component for our decal making process is the actual graphics program itself. And if any of you have seen my previous tutorials, specifically on designing and making field covers, you're already familiar with the Inkscape program. Currently you are viewing my work in progress of designing a new field cover using Inkscape on one of my self-made templates. which by the way are still currently available on my Google Drive file sharing for anybody to use if they so wish. But for the benefit of newcomers, Inkscape is an open source software graphics program. It was built and designed by a group of people who got together and volunteered their knowledge and expertise and pooled the resources and came up with this graphics program. Being open source software basically means it is free for anyone and everyone to use. Here I'm using Inkscape to finish off my latest field cover project. Inkscape is a fairly powerful and versatile vectors graphic editing program that is in a continuing ongoing developmental process. In point of fact, the developers have just come out with their first update version in almost 2 years. Like most updates to complex programs like this, this new version addressed and fixed several bugs and introduced some minor additional and improved features. So you can go to inkscape.org, although it's fairly easy to find via search. I still will provide a link in the video description below. So you want to proceed to the download section of the website on the upper menu bar here, and go to the appropriate area for the system that you're using on your computer. Here you have a further choice of selecting either the 32 or 64-bit version. Now the previous version of Inkscape 0.91 had a major printing bug on it. It affected certain printers, mine being one of them. It only affected it though on the 64-bit version. However, the developers claim this bug has been fixed in this version of 0.92. If for whatever reason you want to use the 0.91 version, I'd recommend utilizing the 32-bit version only to avoid the possible printing problem. Upon opening Inkscape, our first order of business is to go and change the page work sizing to match the specific size that we're going to be using and eventually printing with. To do that, we go up to the File menu, click on Document Properties, and here, as you can see, you can change the various sizes of the paper. By default, it's on A4, which is the European size of a paper. And here also you can change the default measurement to inches. You can set your workspace paper to either portrait or landscape mode, whichever you prefer. And finally, we can get rid of this 3D shadow on the workspace paper also. There are a multitude of ways of zooming in and zooming out of your work. On the bottom right hand corner, you can click on the zoom in and zoom out manipulator. Near the top left, there's the magnifying glass tool. You left click to zoom in, and while holding on the shift key, you left click to zoom out. On the top left, there's either the two icons there you can click on, and you can also use the plus and minus sign on your keyboards. And finally, depending on how you have your mouse set up, sometimes you can use the middle wheel to zoom in and zoom out. Here's a sample sheet of some white decal paper. These are color matched to the home jerseys of a few teams here. I think there's some Cincinnati Bengals, Arizona Cardinals, Detroit Lions, name plates and numbers, and some helmet striping for a few other teams. You may have noticed there's no helmet logos or decals on this sheet. That'll be actually the first subject we're going to cover when we get into the actual designing of our decals for our project. Anyways, for my first decal designing demo tutorial, I'm going to be undertaking a rather unique project. One of my electric football friends is this guy, Big Lock. You won't find a more enthusiastic, positive thinking guy in this hobby. Now in the electric football community, it's a rather small one, but it often is a very close-knit one. A member of the NAEFL is Coach Edwin, who is the very proud owner of this awesome looking game board. Now everyone should recognize what the very thought-provoking theme is all about from the field cover on this game board. Big Lock came up with the idea of asking me to design and print some decals for a team for his good friend and fellow Coach Edwin based upon the same theme. For this particular team, the only stipulation the coaches gave me was the helmet logo must be of a pink ribbon. Other than that, they left the rest up to me as far as uniform colors and such, which is kind of a first for me because all the other decal projects I've done were for specific teams. Unfortunately, there's too many colored ribbons, and I don't even think these are all of them either. There isn't too many people that can say they haven't been affected by this disease, whether directly or indirectly through family and friends. Okay, 15 minutes into this tutorial, we're finally getting into the section where we're going to be designing our decals. I just thought the preliminary stuff covering printers, ink, and paper was necessary. Now, if you view my previous tutorial on field cover designs, much of what I'm going to be covering here is going to be repeat business, but I'm doing it for the benefit of those who haven't seen those videos. The two primary considerations you want to find in a logo is the high resolution and a clear background. An image with a clear background will have this crosshatch pattern. Having a high resolution isn't a critical factor with a helmet logo since we're reducing it to a very small image size, but it still helps to have a high resolution image to start with. And what we're doing here is we're saving our particular logo. Okay, we're back to Inkscape, and I'll quickly show how we set up our workspace, document properties, and we select letter size. I like using the landscape orientation, but that's totally up to you. And then we get rid of that 3D shadow. Our next order of business is to import our image to use for our helmet logo. Click on File, then click on Import, and navigate to where you saved your image off the internet. Now the image is automatically pre-selected with a Select and Transform tool, which is this upper tool on the tool menu on the left hand side of the screen. You can change the measurement unit type. In this case we'll go with inches, of course. Now obviously we need to downsize our image, and we can do so by manipulating any of the corners of the image. However, you can see while we're doing that, we're also changing the aspect ratio of the image. We're distorting it, distorting the width and height. Anytime you want to undo something in Inkscape, all you have to do is right click with your mouse and select Undo. To help prevent this distortion, what you want to ensure here is that the lock symbol is indeed locked, and now we can change our image size while still maintaining its original height and width ratio. One of the bigger challenges to doing your own miniature football helmet logos is getting the sizing right. Here I have a Green Bay logo sized to what I used on my Packers team when I did them up, so it provides me with a guideline to sizing my new logo to. Now this ribbon image is tall and not too wide, not very good for a helmet logo. But because it's just a ribbon, I can change the aspect ratio to get it to fit to the helmet better. This is not the norm. I wouldn't do this to a more detailed regular type logo, but we can get away with it here, I think. Because it's such a simple design, because I imported the Green Bay logo after I imported the ribbon logo, it overlaid the ribbon logo. But here I'm going to make a duplicate of our original image so I can overlay it on the Green Bay logo. Just makes it a little easier as I resize it for what I want. So I'm going to change the aspect ratio here a little bit. Now obviously you, just starting out, won't have access to it already having done in a previous helmet logo job. So here's a suggestion or tip. Cut up some plain white paper into the smallest size your particular printer will accept. For my own printer it's 4" by 6", but yours may be different. To reset the page size, we just go to the now familiar document properties, and in the custom section here we can manually input exact sizing of paper that we're going to be working with. You can utilize the up and down arrows within the window to change the values here, or you can do as I am and just manually input it. So there's our new 4" by 6" work area, or whatever size you decided to input in. You can try sizing your image to a ballpark figure of what I have on the screen here. It won't be super accurate because it all depends upon the original size of the image that you're working with. Then what you do is make a few duplicates of one size, and then make another duplicate and change the size slightly and make more duplicates of that. And you can make as many size changes and duplicates as you want, as long as it'll fit, of course, on the whatever size of sheet you're working with. The idea here is to give yourself some workable examples, and what you want to do is print these off in Inkscape, and to do that you just click on File in the upper menu and click on Print. After printing, the next step is with an X-Acto knife, as close as you can to the image itself, cut them out. And then using a cheapy glue stick, attach them to a football figure helmet area. You can try all the different sizes amongst your first sample sheet. You may get lucky the first time and find a right sized logo amongst those. If not, you can make another sample sheet. This time you'll have a better idea whether the logo should be bigger or smaller. Once you find that right sized logo, you'll have a feature reference to use, just like I did with my Green Bay Packers logo. Anyways, we're already at the 20-minute mark in this tutorial, so here's where I'm going to conclude part 1 on do-it-yourself decal making. In part 2, we're going to continue with more logo helmet work, get into color matching of jerseys, get into font styles and where to obtain them. Then we will cover the actual printing of your decals, sealing and waterproofing them, and finally actually installing the decals on your figures. Just a final post note here, the Canadian pronunciation is actually decals. I've been calling it that since I was a wee lad building model aircraft. But I realized that most of my subscribers and viewers are from my neighbors to the south, so I tried my best to refer to it as decals and not decals. I almost made it to the end of this tutorial before I slipped up and said decals. In conclusion, hopefully we'll have you back on board for part 2 of our decal making tutorial. In the meantime, keep cracking the plastic. How's this guy going to show me how to do decals for electric miniature football figures when he can't even pronounce the name right? Decals. Oh, jeez.